Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Reading Week. Thank you for taking some time to attend this webinar. We're very excited that you're considering one or both of our postgraduate programs. So today we have a chance to give you an outline of the application procedure for this year. So the two programs we will be talking about are our Diploma in Education and Practical Training, or DDEPT, and our Master of Science in Foods and Nutrition, or MScFN, internship stream. So for just some housekeeping for today, if you could please keep your microphone muted and keep your video off. And just a reminder that this webinar is also being recorded so that we can post it on the Brescia website. It'll be there for you to refer back to. So we know we are giving you a lot of information today. We definitely want to answer all of the questions that you might have. So if you could please enter your questions in the chat throughout the presentation, and we will answer those questions after the presentation is done. Okay, so we're going to start with some introductions. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. O'Connor, and I am the academic director in the School of Food and Nutritional Sciences. And I'll pass it on to Dr. Seabrook to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Jamie Seabrook, chair of the School of Food and Nutritional Sciences. I recognize a lot of faces, and it's a pleasure to work alongside our new academic director and colleague and close friend, Dr. O'Connor. It's great to have you all here.
Thank you, Dr. Seabrook, and likewise, it's great working with you too. Now I'd like to give an opportunity to introduce you to our fabulous team of dietetic education coordinators, as well as our graduate program coordinator and administrative coordinator. So first we have Leslie Caskell, if you'd like to wave. So Leslie is one of our dietetic education coordinators. We also have Kathy McKay, Joy Hort, and Helen Toes. And many of you may know Stephanie Turnbull, our graduate program coordinator already. And you have probably been in contact with Lauren Francis, our administrative coordinator, at some point. For today, we're going to cover our practicum programs and go through the application processes and admission requirements. So we do have some changes this year that we want you to be familiar with. We'll talk a little bit about the program costs and funding and requirements for program completion. As I mentioned, the two programs we'll be talking about today are two programs that have a practicum component, the Diploma in Dietetic Education and Practical Training, DDEPT, lots of acronyms in this presentation, and our Master of Science in Foods and Nutrition, or MScFN, our internship stream.
Hi, sorry, everyone. Oh, maybe we're lucky. We have a fire alarm going off here. I'm on site today. Oh dear, sorry.
I can maybe talk first about the MScFN program.
That would be fantastic. Hopefully they're done.
While we're waiting for Helen's fire alarm to end. The MScFN internship stream program is 5 terms of continuous study. So for those applying now, the program would begin in September 2022 and continue each term until the end of April 2024. Students are enrolled in 2 courses during term 1 and another 2 courses during term 2. During this time, students are also beginning to work with their Brescia faculty research supervisor on their research project. During terms 3 to 5, MScFN students are engaged in their full-time dietetic practicum while completing the research project they began during the first 2 terms of their program. You may find detailed information regarding the courses, faculty, and research by visiting the MScFN program page of the Brusha website. And right now, I'll just hand things to Dr. Seabrook to speak in more detail about the research in the MScFN program.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, we have a really excellent research program in our programs, and we have a very diverse group of faculty with various research interests. So it gives you a lot of exposure to research. Going through our undergrad program, we learned a lot about research. Some of you may have had the opportunity to actually engage in some particular aspect of research projects, but this is an opportunity to really get your feet wet and actually experience what research is like. Some research that we do can potentially lead to dissemination, whether that's a poster presentation, an oral presentation, potentially even a peer-reviewed publication. So we have 8 to 12 weeks. It's generally closer to 8, but sometimes there's some more room for an opportunity to do some more research beyond the 8. But you're really working on research throughout your program. So even while working on your coursework early on, you'll get to know your faculty advisor for your research, and you really, will progress throughout the year until you get to those 8 weeks. And then that time period is really geared towards zeroing in on getting as much done as possible before you go away on your placements. There are times where you will continue potentially to do more research, a little bit of research while you're on your placements, depending on where you are in the project. So if you're kind of starting a research project right from the very beginning, there might be a longer delay, if you would, to get everything completed. If you're starting a research project that's already ongoing, it might be at a different phase, but it's all really great experience. And I think you would really enjoy it if you were accepted into our program. Thanks, Stephanie.
How's it going, Helen?
We're good for now. So I'll take the time to tell you a little bit more about the DDEPT program. So the DDEPT program is full-time over 3 terms, starting in May and finishing up in April the following year. DDEPT students begin the program together in May, taking 3 online courses at Brusha, and those are dietetic simulation, regulatory, legal, and ethical issues in dietetics, and practice-based research. The practicum begins in June and continues then until the following April. There's 4 or more weeks dedicated to a practice-based project that all students complete as part of their DDEPT program. These projects come out of the real-life experiences of dietitians that support our program. These dietitians also play a primary role in mentoring the student through the project. Some of the practice-based projects that we've had this year include things like determining the vitamin D status of hematology patients throughout their stem cell transplant treatment, establishing a food system dashboard to create real-time reports of the state of the local food system, developing an evidence-informed plant sterile education resource to support patients implementing the portfolio diet, conducting systematic review in order to inform the dietary management practices in patients with COPD. So as you can tell, they're really practical and they relate really closely to real-life dietetic practice. The practicum component is the same between the 2 programs, and we'll dive into those details in the following slides. It's important for you to know that both the DDEPT and the MScFN programs are accredited by the Partnership in Dietetic Education and Practice. Next slide, please. For the next cohort of students, we expect to offer 30 to 35 DDEPT positions and 15 to 20 MScFN positions. Of these positions, 9 students will be based at London Health Sciences Centre and 12 at Hamilton Health Sciences. Others will be based at Okay. The other students will be, You're getting a little bit of real life already. Other students will be based at geographical hubs throughout the province, and we'll review some of these hub locations in the following slides. You should expect your placements to be full-time. That is 8 hours a day, Monday through Fridays. Placements are located throughout Ontario. Access to a car and driver's license are required, and you should expect to relocate and travel throughout the practicum. Next slide, please. As you can see, we have practicum hubs throughout the province, from Windsor to Owen Sound, Grey Bruce to Eastern Ontario. Each location has advantages that you should consider when making your location preference. Regardless of where you're placed, expect that you may have to drive longer distances to get to your placement. Out-of-province placements may be feasible, but at this time, international travel is not permitted by Western for course-related activities. Russia has education partnership agreements with Hamilton Health Sciences and London Health Sciences Centre. Both are large teaching facilities and tertiary care centers. I am the dietetic education coordinator for the Hamilton Health Sciences cohort, and my office is located at the Hamilton General Hospital, which you've all heard today. We are a community of 15,000 staff, physicians, researchers, and volunteers with multiple hospital sites across the Hamilton community. We offer adult and pediatric nutrition care learning experiences. Students at HHS complete 22 weeks of clinical placements. Once students are placed with HHS, those interested in pediatrics will have the opportunity to apply for pediatric-focused nutrition care training. HHS also supports food service management, population health, and practice-based project placements for students. Food service at HHS is managed by Compass One Healthcare. Our Shine Wellness program and HHS health promotion activities support population health placements for some of our students. Students in the HHS cohort can expect to have a majority of their placements in the Hamilton and Niagara area. Please visit our website to become familiar with the clinical services offered at our organization and for more details about the practicum experience at HHS. I'd like to introduce Amanda Deegan-McClarty, the manager of the Clinical Nutrition and Speech Language Pathology departments at London Health Sciences Centre, and she'll speak to you a little bit about the cohort experience there.
Thanks, Helen. As Helen mentioned, I'm the manager of Clinical Nutrition and Speech Language Pathology here at LHSC. And the LHSC consists of nearly 15,000 staff, physicians, students, and volunteers. We actually have 55 dietitians and 8 dietetic assistants within the Department of Clinical Nutrition. LHSC is a multi-site facility that encompasses University Hospital, Victoria Hospital, Children's Hospital, and the Kidney Care Center. We offer placements in both adult and pediatric clinical programs. Students spend the majority of their clinical placements at LHSC, with experience usually offered in 4 different clinical programs, such as general medicine, surgery, oncology, or others. LHSC trains more than 1,800 medical students and healthcare students annually. You can visit the LHSC website for more details.
As you can see, there's also acute care and teaching hospital placements available at Kingston, Windsor, and throughout the Greater Toronto area. Next slide, please. As you consider your preferred location, I encourage you to research the various potential placement organizations within each geographical hub to understand what each has to offer. Does this align with your career goals? Do you have specific learning interests? Consider your personal resources, access to accommodations, and the cost of travel and parking. Take the time to reflect on your personal goals for the practicum year. Do you want to be close to your friends and family, or do you want to go somewhere you haven't been to experience a new place? Do you prefer to remain in one geographical area, or does exploring dietetic practice across several locations interest you? We have opportunities to meet all of those considerations. Next slide, please. Each practicum is designed so students have the opportunity to develop the skills they need to achieve the integrated competencies for dietetic education and practice, which is one of the requirements needed to write the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam. Each student has a unique schedule. No two placement schedules are the same. Your final placement schedule is created in collaboration with your dietetic education coordinator. Overall, students will have a minimum of 16 weeks in nutrition care, which is typically in hospitals, long-term care homes, family health teams, and diabetes education centers. You'll have a minimum of 6 weeks in management, which is typically in the food service departments of long-term care homes, hospitals, and in industry. 6 weeks, a minimum of 6 weeks in population and public health, which is often in public health units, community health centers, and with private practice dietitians. A key difference between the MScFN and DDEPT schedules is the number of weeks dedicated to research or practice-based projects. Flex weeks can be assigned across nutrition care, management, population and public health, and the practice-based project. Keep in mind that students in some cohorts, like at London Health Sciences Centre and Hamilton Health Sciences, have less flexibility than other cohorts in determining these weeks. There's about a week of education sessions scheduled before the start of practicum in June, and then there are monthly sessions throughout the practicum weeks. Vacation time is not flexible and is scheduled over the December holidays. The total time for the program is 49 to 52 weeks in the MScFN program, or 44 to 46 weeks in the DDEPT program. Next slide, please. What can you expect from your placements? Placements will offer you the opportunity to develop important dietetic skills and abilities. This might look like a nutrition assessment for nutrition support for a patient admitted with a stroke, or developing, implementing, and evaluating a health promotion program, or perhaps coordinating the quality assurance activities in a food service department.
Code red, all clear.
We encourage you to get involved and take advantage of all the learning opportunities available at a placement. Learn from other members of the team, go see a swallowing study, attend a meeting with the leadership team, get out and connect with the community. Next slide, please. Moving on to admission requirements. The DDEPT admission requirements are as follows. To have an undergraduate degree from a PDEP or Ascend accredited dietetic education program from 2019 or later. A minimum grade point average of 70% in the final 2 years of your program or in the last 10 full course equivalents. English literacy is required, and you must have access to a vehicle and be able to drive unattended throughout Ontario during the practicum portion of your program. In order to verify that you've met the admission requirements, you will be asked to upload your unofficial transcripts, proof of a Class 2 Ontario driver's license or equivalent, and confirmation of completion of a PDEP accredited program form.
Similar to the DDEPT program, an undergraduate degree from a dietetic education program, which is accredited by PDEP, or Ascend if your undergraduate degree was done in the United States from 2019 or later, and English literacy are both requirements for the MScFN program. Undergraduate courses in research and statistics are also required, as well as a minimum average of 78% on the last 10 full course equivalent credits. This typically represents the last 2 years of your education and is calculated by counting backwards from your most recent course, excluding any first-year grades. Applicants will also be asked to submit proof of G2 driver's license or equivalent if applying from another province. If you are currently working towards your G2, instead you may provide proof that your G2 will be completed prior to the start of the MScFN program in September 2022. Next slide, thank you.
Okay, I think it's my turn. Hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to take you through the application process. I believe Stephanie and Helen are going to assist with this as well. So we have significantly revised our admissions process this year in order to minimize potential bias in the process. So for the next several slides, we will describe in detail what the new application process involves, starting with this slide that outlines the 3 critical components of the application. So starting with the university application, which includes the submission of transcripts and payment. So that's your step 1. Step 2 is the Casper test, which is an online situational judgment test, which we'll get into in more detail in upcoming slides. And the last step is the OWL assessment. So there's 2 parts to the OWL assessment, and that will be completed on our learning platform, which is called OWL. So I just want to emphasize that all 3 components must be completed to be considered for admission to our programs, and that all these components are important and will be considered in the selection process. So one of the big changes this year is we will be using a blinded application review to minimize potential bias. So team members involved in application review and acceptance decisions will be blinded to the application, or sorry, the applicant name. Team members involved in the administrative aspects of admissions will not be blinded, and so therefore they won't have access to your information. And they will not be involved in application review or acceptance decisions. The blinding will not be removed until the very end when we're sending out admission offers. Okay, so now we're going to get into more of the details for each component of the application process. So now I invite Helen and Stephanie to explain step 1 further.
You're muted, Helen.
Thank you. So please start at the Brescia website. This outlines the details of our application process. The application opens on December the 6th, 2021, and it will close at 4 p.m. on January 14th. There is a $75 application fee, and the components that we talked about earlier in terms of the admission requirements will be asked for at this step.
Applications for the MScFN program will be accepted between November 15th and January 14th, and this is a firm deadline. The application fee is $125. Before starting your application, you absolutely should review the information found on the Brescia website at the link showing on this slide, or by accessing the How to Apply section of the MScFN internship stream program page on Brescia's website. There you will find very detailed information to help you understand the application process, what will be required with your application, and the link to access and begin your application. Next slide, please.
So step 2 of the application process, as already mentioned, is Casper, an online situational judgment test. The completion of this test is required for application to both the DDEPT and MScFN programs. So if you are applying to both, you only need to do it once, and your score will be used for both applications. And just so you know, our application reviewers will be blinded to your Casper score. Next slide, please. Oh, could someone change the slide, please? Thank you. I think that was Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so let's talk about Casper. What is this? Casper, it's an open response assessment of your non-academic skills. So you'll be given video and written scenarios and then asked what you would do in that situation and why. And this evaluation or assessment gives us insight into your non-academic skills or your soft skills. So skills such as empathy, ethics, problem solving, and collaboration. So skills that are essential to success in our programs, as well as going into your career as a registered dietitian. So by implementing Casper, we're really hoping to enhance the fairness and the objectivity in our selection process. So the test will take you 75 to 90 minutes to complete. The cost is $40, plus there is an additional $12 distribution fee for each program application. And the following are the 3 options you have in terms of test dates. So the first one is on November 23rd at 5 o'clock. December 9th is the second one. And the third one is January 5th. Keeping in mind that details around this is on our Brescia website, and you can also go to the website listed at the top of the slide, takecasper.com. Please note, and this is really important, that these are the only test dates that we are offering. So you must complete this test on either one of these dates. If we do not get a Casper score, we cannot accept basically to our program. And also please note that, and this is important too, that so you will be registering to complete this test on the Altus website. Again, you can refer to our Brescia website for that. And you will need to register, and you need to do that 3 days ahead of time. So don't wait until the morning of November 23rd to register. You want to register at least 3 days in advance. Okay, next slide. The final step of the application process is our OWL assessment, and there's 2 parts to it. I think we could just jump to the next slide, please. So if you apply to both programs, you will need to do this assessment twice, once for each program. The first step in this process is to set up your OWL account. So between December 6th and the 22nd, we ask that you email fnsgrad@uwo.ca. And in the subject heading, you're going to list one of the following. You're either going to put 2022 DDEPT OWL access, 2022 MScFN OWL access, or 2022 MScFN and DDEPT OWL access. And in the body of the email, you're going to include your name and the program or programs that you're applying to. And you should receive an invitation to the OWL site within 48 hours between Monday and Friday. I also just want to quickly mention that between December 22nd and January 3rd, Brescia will be closed. That's why we are giving you those specific dates of December 6th to the 22nd to get that OWL account started. Next slide. So part 1 of the OWL assessment, you will be acknowledging your ability to drive to the placement, also confirming your COVID vaccination status, and you will let us know your top 3 picks for a geographic location preference, and then listing your references. So there should be 2 references, and at least one needs to be professional. So what does professional mean? It means that it should be somebody that supervised you in a work or volunteer.
Hi, Joy. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the slides are actually paused. so we can't see anything past the Casper slide.
Last slide that you wouldn't have seen. And then this is the OWL assessment slide. So basically what Joy was saying, just if you want to email the FNS grad email with these headings. And then is this where you left off, Joy?
I believe so, yes. I think I was talking about references. Okay, so we're good? Okay, thank you guys. Okay, so getting back to references, so you need to list 2 references, at least one being professional. So meaning somebody that supervised you in a work or volunteer experience. So they should really have firsthand knowledge of your abilities, be somebody who directly oversaw your work, and be able to provide an evaluation in English of your performance and potential for dietetic practicum. This is important. Referees do not require to submit a form. We will only contact your references as needed or as required. So please make sure to let your referees know that they don't need to submit anything. Next slide, please. Okay, part 2 of the OWL assessment. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is pulling information from your resume. And it's important for you to know that, of course, the application reviewers will be able to see this information, of course, because it's part of us assessing you and seeing what kind of experiences you have and that you're going to bring to the practicum. So for work and volunteer experiences, you will list the organization name, the total hours per experience. That piece is really important. Please don't forget that. Your role and your main accomplishments in those or during those experiences. Under other experiences, this is your opportunity to tell us about awards, additional education. So perhaps you have another post-secondary degree that you want to tell us about, certifications, training, other kinds of training, skills. Perhaps you speak another language besides English. If you have publications or you've done research in the past, and please include dates if possible. We also just want to acknowledge that we really value the whole idea of transferable skills. So meaning that we understand that there's a lot of different experiences that you may have had that can help prepare you for practicum. That might not be specifically dietetic related. For example, perhaps you've been working in the banking industry or you've been a waitress or waiter for many years. Within those jobs, you've likely developed really important skills such as leadership, collaboration, communication, problem solving, all really important skills that can help you succeed in practicum and in your future career. So we will definitely take those into account as well. And I think just considering COVID, and how that may have impacted many of you in terms of getting dietetic related experiences. We definitely want to acknowledge those other experiences that you may have. And I would refer you to the ICDEPT, so the Integrated Competencies for Dietetic Education and Practice, just in terms of giving you some ideas of the types of skills that we would be looking for. Lastly, so the last part of part 2 of the OWL assessment is the supplemental questions. And I think we'll just jump to the next slide on those. So you will be answering a couple questions. So the first one is describe how your experiences and skills have prepared you for practical dietetic training. And number 2, how has the pandemic impacted your ability to complete work and volunteer experiences? And how have you overcome this? Keeping in mind that we will be limiting the word count to 200 on both of those questions. And the last one will be an audio clip that you'll record. And we're inviting you to share anything else you wish the admissions committee to know about why you're a great fit for our program. So this is set up in our learning platform, OWL. It's automated, so it should be pretty straightforward. You will need a microphone though. Next slide, please. And then these questions are just for the MScFN applicants. 2 additional questions. So describe the experiences that have led to your interest in doing research at Brescia, and outline your research interests and preferred faculty supervisor. So with this, we highly encourage you to go to our website and to review all the research interests of our fantastic faculty members to give you ideas on how to answer these questions. Next slide, please. Oh, it's already there, sorry. So this slide just summarizes what we've just talked about. So the 3 components that are necessary to be completed for our application process this year. So the university application, the CASPER test, and then the final component, which is the OWL assessment. And the deadline for having all this completed is January 14th, 2022 at 4:00 p.m. And I will now hand it over to Stephanie to talk about application communication.
Thank you. So communication throughout the application process for both programs will be sent to you by email. This could include questions regarding your application and important updates throughout the selection process. Please use your school email if possible, and be sure to watch your junk and spam inboxes. Next slide, please. This year, we will not be hosting applicant interviews, as all necessary assessment details will be collected throughout our 3 application steps. The notification of acceptance to both programs will be made to successful applicants starting in early March 2022 and will continue until all positions have been filled. This process will extend throughout the month of March and possibly into April. As mentioned, it is crucial that applicants are watching their email, checking those spam and junk folders throughout this process, as depending where we are in the selection process, applicants could have as little as 24 hours to respond to an offer of acceptance. If we do not hear back from an applicant, we must move on and offer that position to the next applicant on our list. And therefore, a lack of response could mean losing your acceptance. We do ask, however, that applicants reply to let us know either way whether they are accepting our offer of admission. I just can't stress enough how important consistent communication with our office is throughout this process. Next slide, please.
The full cost of the program, including 3 terms of tuition, ancillary and placement fees, is listed on the slide for the DDEPT program. Tuition cost is different if you're an international student. Please go to the Brescia website for detailed information around tuition.
Tuition for the MScFN program is $4,631.60 per term. This fee includes tuition and ancillary program fees, and the fees I'm quoting are the fees students are paying this year, which could be slightly different next year. Next slide, please. We also would like to prepare you to understand some of the costs beyond tuition for students in a practicum program. Students can expect some costs related to educational and professional memberships and training, As well, pre-practicum costs include Dietitian of Canada membership, liability and accident insurances, immunizations, police checks, mask fit testing. As well, there will be costs associated to the logistics of practicum, such as relocation and accommodation, parking, gas, and other car-related costs. Next slide, please.
DDEPT is an OSAP eligible program, and there are bursaries and scholarships available through Brusha. Students in the Brusha program will receive this information at the start of their program. You'll find more information on our DDEPT website.
The MScFN program is also an OSAP eligible program. For applicants to the MScFN program, there are 2 scholarships available through Western University Graduate Studies. These are the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, or OGS, and the Canadian Graduate Scholarship, or CGS. Please find information regarding eligibility, application process, and how to apply from the Western University Graduate Studies Scholarship website. For those interested, I'll encourage you to seek out this information as soon as possible, as the deadlines are time sensitive, with the CGS deadline coming up on December the 1st. This does not leave a lot of time for you to get references and other items for the application in place. In addition to those 2 scholarships, students in the MScFN program will be encouraged to apply for employment at Brusha as course assistants, markers, and proctors, as well as a number of Brusha donor-funded awards. Additionally, MScFN students in past have received a stipend at the beginning of their third term to assist with program expenses just before the practicum begins. The amount is subject to administration and government funding, but this year was $3,500 for each student. Next slide, please.
And then fast forward a year or 2 after starting your program, and it really does happen in a blink of an eye, you will be looking at successful completion of your program. So if you are in the DDEPT program, then you will be earning a Western diploma in dietetic education and practical training. Or if you're in the MScFN program, you will be earning a Western Master of Science degree in foods and nutrition. Next, oh, thank you. And something else to keep in mind is that we will be hosting a panel event to showcase the experience of current graduate students and recent graduates of our program. So keep an eye out for that and watch our website for details on that. And now we would like to welcome any questions that you have. So if you haven't already posted in the chat, please feel free to do so now. We're happy to take your questions. Thank you. I can moderate the questions. So scrolling up to the top, I see there's a question about the date for the G2 license to be uploaded. So when is that due, and whether or not to upload it to OWL or to somewhere else? And I'm wondering if who might take the answer to that, who might know.
So for the MScFN application, you would upload that with step 1 with your application. And all items, including the license, would need to be uploaded by the January 14th deadline.
In regards to the DDEPT program, it would be similar. So you would upload it with the Brusha component, the step 1 component of the application.
Okay, thank you. Another question, when we are outlining our research interests in the supplemental question, do we just list some topics or do we have to elaborate upon them? I can start this one and others can chime in as necessary or they think of anything else. So we really want to get an idea of what your interests are. So I wouldn't just list them. I would provide a little bit of description of them, but we're not looking for you to write a research proposal here. So a little bit about, maybe your topic area and what interests you about research in that area, something along those lines. I don't know if others want to add to that. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next question. Also, if I'm not answering your question completely, feel free to put a follow-up question in the chat.
Pauline?
So a question about wondering for both references, they don't need to submit letters, just their contact information.
Correct. Amy, did you want to add to the last answer? I thought you had your hand up.
I did. I know it's so many people, it's hard to tell. Yeah, I was just going to say that, research interests, though, be flexible, because research interests can change a lot. Sometimes we go into something thinking this is what I want to do and only this, but the reality is that that is because of your exposure of what you've learned so far. And sometimes new exposure is also a really good thing. And we have just such a diverse group of faculty with such amazing research interests that I just encourage you all, if you get to that point, to be open to new research opportunities.
Thank you, Dr. Seabrook. I didn't see your hand. My apologies. Next question. You mentioned at least one reference should be professional. Would it be ideal if both were professional or one academic and one professional? I'll start off by saying that you really want references that can speak to the best of your skills and your qualities. So I would put that forefront over whether or not it's an academic or professional for your second one. I don't know if others want to add to that.
I would just agree with that.
Okay.
Dr. O'Connor, that's bang on. It's the people that know you best could provide the strongest reference.
Okay, thank you. Next question is about Casper. Wondering how long it takes for Casper scores to come back. Will the January 5th deadline give us enough time to get results prior to the application deadline? I see Joy nodding, so perhaps maybe you could do that one.
Yeah, I mean, we've chosen those 3 dates. We were given a list from the company that administers Casper, and all those dates will give us the result, your score on time. And I believe we'll have your scores within 10 days or 2 weeks of you writing the test.
And just to build on that answer from Joy is to say that Casper actually gives the results directly to us. So you don't have to worry about submitting something in particular in regards to Casper with your application, okay?
Thank you, Helen.
Great, thank you. A question asking whether the diploma allows you to work outside of Ontario or Canada. And for either the diploma or the MScFN, once you have completed all of your requirements, you will then have to write, if you want to work in Canada, you have to write the CDRE, the Canadian Dietetic Registration Examination. And that allows you, I think, to work in all provinces and territories in Canada, but maybe someone can confirm that. But you would then just have to register with the College of Dietitians in the province in which you are working. And then in order to work outside of Canada, I mean, it would depend on the country, but you likely have to write an exam in that country to be able to practice there. Anyone want to add to that? Okay. The next question, is there a specific result you need to receive from the Casper exam?
I just have to think about how to answer that. Essentially, the way it works is that your performance on the Casper test will be compared to the other candidates that wrote the test. And then you're kind of put on like a bell curve, so to speak. And that kind of gives us some idea of where you fall in terms of the strength of some of those soft skills. Does that answer your question? Somebody else wants to jump in, and I'm happy to hear others' points of view.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next question. Is there a page limit for a resume with all of our experiences and the number of hours? So with our new process with uploading into OWL, you will be filling in different kind of text box sections with the relevant elements from a traditional resume. So it won't be like in the past where you would upload a resume that would have a specific page limit, but we do have character limits within the different sections for what we're asking you to upload. I don't remember what those are offhand. Somebody want to jump in? And
I think it's fair to say it would be pretty equivalent to a 2-page resume. So pretty much the same as it has been in the past, just a different way of entering the information.
Great, thank you. Do we see the results for the Casper test?
I don't believe so.
I didn't think so either. Are current Brescia students required to do the OWL assessment? Yeah, so every component that is part of the application has to be done by every applicant. So I hope I'm understanding your question properly, but if that's what your question is, then yes, you would have to complete all parts. Okay. For the information on our experiences, would you prefer us to include a greater number of experiences or a more detailed description of a fewer number? Well, I can start off by saying that, there's no set way. It really depends on what your experiences have been. I wouldn't want you to feel like you had to, tick a bunch of boxes and include a bunch of experiences to make it, appear that you have a whole lot. Sometimes, it's quality over quantity. So describing fewer numbers of experiences, but in more depth and in more detail can provide, a really good, I guess, description of what you've been involved in. So that would be how I would take a stab at that answer. Does anyone want to add into that?
I agree, Dr. O'Connor. That's exactly the right approach.
Okay. What are the differences in employment opportunities after graduation between the master's and the diploma? I think our coordinators would have a better finger on the pulse of where our graduates have been. So perhaps one of you could take a stab at that.
Sure. For the first jobs, we see very little difference. I would guess the only difference would be sometimes our master's students get jobs teaching at the college or university level, and usually those require master's degrees or higher to be an instructor at that level. And then later on, perhaps advancement opportunities within some organizations, a master's degree might be recognized. But I would say for a dietitian position, we're seeing the same kinds of employment, regardless of the program people are graduating from.
And I will add, because I was planning on mentioning this, but and I forgot to during the slides, but recently looking at our numbers, we're seeing more than 80% of our recent grads who are employed. So we do have a excellent success rate for students, regardless of diploma or MScFN, in obtaining employment after graduation. Do you want the information to be entered in point form or full sentences for the resume part? Well, we're not looking for long, elaborate sentences. If you do put point form, make sure though that your point form is complete, if that makes sense. So, we need to be able to understand what you're trying to get across in your point form. So you'll need to, make sure to explain that rather than, just a simple point form. But we don't need long, elaborate sentences. Oh, I see Dr. Seabrook has his hand up.
I was just going to reiterate what you said, Dr. O'Connor. That's a frequent question I get just in general about should it be point form or not, or written sentences or paragraph form. The answer I would just say is it really depends. However, in general, I do find sometimes when people scale it down to maybe bullet point form, we don't get always the information that we need. So just make sure that it's really thorough, whichever approach that you take.
Thank you. Okay, where can we get more information on the Casper test? How many questions, types of questions? We do have links to Casper. I don't know if there's somewhere that we can post them. I'm sure we could do that. So
we do have more information, including links to find more information about Casper on our website. So if you go to either the MScFN or the DDEPT page of the Brusha website, in the how to apply area, there is going to be considerable information, including information about Casper that you can find right on that page.
Right.
Yeah, there's even a link to a video, so you can actually get a little bit of an idea of what the scenarios will look like and that kind of thing.
Next question, if we have further questions, who should we contact? I believe that's on the website as well. But
yeah, you can, the best thing to do is to email fnsgrad@uwo.ca, and definitely that is on both program pages of our website. And that email is being monitored daily. So.
And I would add, if you're a Brusha student, to use the OWL forum on the 2022 applicants OWL site that you should be a part of if you are planning to apply next year.
I would also like to stress if you could, before you reach out with questions, to make sure that you've reviewed all of the materials that have been posted quite diligently, and then your next step would be to submit an email with a question. Otherwise, we get flooded with emails. Is there a time limit once we open the OWL assessment, or can we continuously work on it until the submission deadline? And no, there's no time limit. You can work on it until the deadline. For the most part, I think for all components. Sorry, I was just thinking to the audio clip, but you can resubmit that if you're not happy with it. So it's not like you have one chance and that's all you get. Are there any other components that might be time sensitive, or I can't think of any?
Can you guys hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Now we can hear you now.
Okay. It's Kathy. I've been having a lot of technical difficulties, which still continue on my screen, but I'm glad you can hear me. Yeah, just to, again, what Joy had said earlier, but just, I guess, to put emphasis on it, just getting your OWL account set up early is important. just because Brusha closes over Christmas. So again, you could get it set up, but then wait to start working on the application till over the holidays or into January. So that's the one, you won't be able to work on it if you don't have your OWL account set up. So again, I think it was by January 20 or December 22nd or 21st was from the opening day till about December 22nd. We ask you to email us and we'll set up that OWL account, and that just has to be done manually given the system. So that's why it's just not as feasible while the holidays are while the university's closed. So just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you. That's a great point to stress. Are we able to complete the CASPER test prior to the application? The first test is available on November 23rd, but the application for DDEP opens on December 6th. And I believe the answer to that is yes. Okay, I see Joy also. Yeah, so we picked those dates specifically for applicants to our program, so you can choose any of those dates. That is the end of the questions that I'm seeing in the chat. Are there any other questions people might have? Okay, well then we will leave it there, and there is lots of information on our websites for both programs, as well as this webinar will be included there for you to refer to. And we will wish you all the best on your applications and look forward to the process. So thank you all for your interest and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.